How's everybody doing? Came up with an idea of something I've been wanting to do for a while. Um, I'm going to call it public domain commentaries. So, just basically me doing commentaries of public domain movies that I really enjoy. Um, I don't know how well you can see me on my screen. I don't know because I can't see myself. But anyway, they're going to be super like low ghetto. I'm literally got the camera parked in front of the TV, and I'm not going to be standing here, of course. I'll be on the other side doing my commentary and everything else. And they're going to be probably about 15, 20-minute segments. I'm doing Night of the Living Dead as my first one because it's my favorite, one of my favorite movies of all time, especially favorite horror movies of all time. And it's just for fun. It's an experiment. Eventually, when I get around to it, when I get the money and the patience and bother to get the know-how, I will be getting an actual decent camera, and I will be getting the proper software to actually start doing some editing and maybe one day become monetized. Who knows? It's not really. This is just a hobby I do for shits and giggles anyway. But so every once in a while you will see the volume progress bars. The volume, not progress bar, the volume bar somewhere over here on the side of the screen, as I might be adjusting the volume for so you can hear me or hear the movie, whatever is happening at the time. And just let me know what you think of it. And if it's stupid and pointless and I shouldn't do another one, I'll probably ignore you and do it anyway because I'm stubborn that way. But if you enjoy it and you like it, then yeah, just let me know because it's something new. And I'm also curious to see how I'm sitting in the screen right now because I can't see myself at all. So I will flip over. Oh, one other thing too. I just want to someone who will never actually see this, but I'm a fan of Angry Video Game Nerd. I can't remember your actual name, but you do Cinemasker, you do all these other things, and I got the idea to do Night of the Living Dead in particular by watching you do it. So in a way, I'm kind of borrowing the idea from you. But anyway, so a shout out to you, and if you've never seen his channel, definitely check it out. He's got like a million zillion subscribers, probably a few million at this point. I have no idea. But a really popular guy. He's had celebrities on his show, and it's a really interesting show. A really interesting channel. If you like movies and you like video games, I'm not a gamer. I just like movies. But check him out. Anyway, I'm gonna flip sides. I don't know if you can see my shirt, but Night of the Living Dead. All ready for this, and let's see how this turns out. And here we go. So this is image 10. Where that comes from is originally the filmmakers, they were called Leighton Image. And 10 of them got together to try and put this film together. They put $1,000 in a piece and came up with $10,000, which clearly wasn't enough. And they called themselves Image 10 because there was 10 of them. I think they ended up getting a budget of about $133,000, and the movie ended up making about $30 million. So good job for them. And there's the title. Originally it was called Night of the Flesh Eaters, but that title was already, and there they are, the creators themselves. But originally, yeah, it was Night of the Flesh Eaters, but they changed the name because there was already a film called that, and for copyright reasons they changed it, and then unfortunately they forgot to copyright the new name, the new title, and it ended up in the public domain. That's why there's copies and copies and copies of this, usually really low-grade copies that were just produced and sold because they weren't breaking any laws, kind of like me being able to show it. And there it says Latin Image right there. And Hardman Associates, which I believe is referring to Carl Hardman, who plays Harry Cooper and was also one of the producers. I think he was a producer. Bullet holes in the sign, kind of fitting for a small town. Not all small towns, sorry, a small redneck town, I guess you could say. I don't want to offend anyone. But yeah, there he is. Carl Hardman produced him. Russell Streiner, we'll see him in a minute. And this is Evans City Cemetery. I think it's in Pennsylvania. And they chose this cemetery because it wasn't a very popular cemetery, and there wouldn't be a lot of distractions.
They ought to make the day the time changes, the first day of summer.
What?
Well, it's 8 o'clock and it's still light.
A lot of good the extra daylight does us.
Judith O'Day in a very obvious wig.
Well, if it really bugged you, Johnny,
I always thought she was really cute.
You think I want to blow Sunday on a scene like this? You know, I figure we're either going to have to move Mother.
And of course, Russ Striner, who's also, as I mentioned a second ago, is one of the producers.
Is there any of that candy left?
no.
There's,
We still remember.
I like this line.
You know, I don't even remember what the man looks like.
Johnny, it takes you 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes to put the wreath on the grave and 6 hours to drive back and forth. Mother wants to remember, so we trot 200 miles into the country and she stays at home.
Well, we're here, John, all right?
Typical sibling rivalry, bickering. But yeah, it's Russ Striner, as I said, and I'll be saying is probably one of the most famous lines in the movie in a couple minutes. The version we're watching is the Millennium Edition.
Nothing wrong with the radio. Must have been the station.
Came out in 2000. My brother bought me this copy, actually. It's a nice shot. It's shot in black and white when most films were in color, just for budget reasons. It was a low-budget film, obviously, and they only made a horror movie because it was the easiest thing they could make on a small budget. And they chose zombies just to be interesting, and then they came up with the whole zombies eating people as what's the scariest thing? They didn't call them zombies, of course, in the movie, but a ghoul or someone brought back to the dead. What's the scariest thing they could do to the living? So that's where they came up with that. And this tombstone is a big fan photo area. A lot of the fans that enjoy this
I
film
wonder what happened to the one from last year.
come here to take their picture.
Each year we spend good money on these things. We come out here and the one from last year's gone.
Well, the flowers die, and the caretaker or somebody takes them away.
Yeah, a little spit and polish and clean this up. Sell it next year. Wonder how many times we bought the same one.
I always thought that was a funny line. There's a cartoon version of this that just came out, I think, in 2021 or maybe 2020, but it's really well done. It follows the story nicely. The only cast member I can remember off the top of my head, and I've forgotten her name,
Church was this.
she plays Barbara, but was also a Ginger from Ginger Snaps. Just a little interesting note. And there he is, right there, Bill Hinsman, way off in the background. To see it for the first time, that wouldn't mean a whole lot, but knowing where the zombie genre has gone since this film, it's a very iconic scene because that one shot is the very first shot of a modern-day zombie that has ever been filmed. Whereas George Romero and John Russo are the godfathers of the genre. I would argue that Bill Hinsman is the godfather of zombies themselves.
And Grandpa got all excited and he shook his fist at me and he said, "Boy, you'll be damned to hell." Remember that? Right over there.
Every once in a while you see him in the background getting a little closer. And here comes the popular line.
You're still afraid.
Stop it now, I mean it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
There it is. I never get bored of hearing that.
You're ignorant.
And there he is in the background, just
Barbara,
slowly creeping along.
Like a child.
they're coming for you. Look, there comes one of them now.
He'll hear you.
Here he comes now. I'm getting out of here.
Johnny.
And there it is. The very first zombie attack. And of course by Bill Hinsman. There is another version of this film that came out, the 30th anniversary version, which is terrible. Whoops. And they've changed the soundtrack, added scenes, footage that does not blend in at all. And Bill Hinsman does reprise his role as the zombie. He gets more scenes. There's the infamous thunk. But he's 30 years older, and they put the makeup on to make him look like the same character, and it stands out really badly. And when you know the film, the soundtrack is not, it's awful, because you're not expecting it. It just sounds too modern. But he also reprised the role again, but more as a parody in a film called Flesh Eater. I think it came out in 1986, and it's more of a, follows a lot of the 80s horror comedy stuff that was sort of made popular by American Werewolf in London in 1980 or 81, I think it came out. And I recommend seeing that. It's cheesy, it's low budget, but it's worth a watch. Now, if you notice, take note too that the zombies in these movies actually use tools. Like right here, there's a rock. And just a side note, right there, you see it bounce off something. That's George Romero in there with the camera, and the rock he smashed in the window with, actually, he threw it a little harder than he was supposed to, and I believe it bounced off George Romero's arm while they were filming. And here's where they worked an accident into the film coming up. You see her come around the corner, and she's going to hit a tree. I'm sure people watching this have seen it already, but when she hits the tree, we'll see in a second. It was because the day before they filmed this, it was, I think it was Russell Steiner's mother's car that they borrowed, which was, actually it was kind of a green color. In the colorized version I have, it's red for some reason, but anyway, they got into an accident, so for continuity reasons, I guess, they filmed it hitting the side of the tree to work that dent into the movie, so it made sense. I think this scene was shot, George Romero was sitting in the back of a flatbed of a pickup truck, and she was just running behind it while he filmed. And there's the infamous farmhouse. She was really pretty. And I've seen her in interviews at horror conventions, and she's actually seems like a really fun person. And this house they got to use because it was going to be torn down anyway, and they actually had to go in and fix it up to make it look like someone's living in it. But they pretty much were open to do whatever they wanted to, because the house was in effect going to be torn down anyway. So if you ever want to go visit this as a horror landmark, it does not exist. You know, it's all public domain soundtrack. It works its way into the movie really well. Like, I'm not sure who chose the soundtrack itself, but it goes well. The scenes and it flows really good. And see, sometimes the continuity of what time of day it was doesn't work because it was daylight just a moment ago, and as you'll see, she looks out the window and it's suddenly nighttime. But it's a low budget film, and I don't really think it takes away from the rest of the movie. So we're about the 14-minute mark, so I'm gonna go for another few more minutes, and then a jump scare coming up. Ooh, scary animal heads. Beware. But it's daylight now, as you can see. And now it's instantly, well, when you see the window she was looking at, you can see it was nighttime in the background, but It's like dark out. And I've never in my life heard a busy signal or a dial tone that sounds remotely close to that. The ones when I was younger was just beep, 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 beep. But originally Barbara was supposed to be a tough character that fights back, and here we go, the night shot. And if you look in the background, just before she looks out the window, you can see it was daylight, and then she looks at now it's nighttime. So the continuity from these window shots are all over the place. But yeah, she was supposed to be a tough character that fought back, and they kind of liked it better as the more nervous character that needed help. But I'll say it in a second. This is a good scene, that's why. George Romero actually made that. The eyes were made of ping pong balls. But in the remake, 1990, she plays the tough character. Not Barbara O'Day, of course, or Judith O'Day, but the actress, I can't remember her name. And there he is, Dwayne Jones, of course. Sadly died in 1988, I believe, of cancer. I think his last movie was, I want to say Beat Street, breakdancing movie.
Don't worry about him, I can have him.
And him, an African American or black actor playing a lead role like this in 1968 was kind of a big deal. But George Romero many times has said many times that he was chosen for his abilities as an actor. Not at all because of his race. He was written as a white character, actually. And they just tweaked it a little because the character was actually supposed to be kind of a jerk and very angry. Where Ben, he's very urgent, but he's the only time he gets angry is when he gets pushed by someone else later on in the film, by Harry Cooper, played by Carl Hardman. When this film came out, though, they didn't. It was one of the last drive-in films in terms of the drive-in era. That's when that was a big thing back in the 50s and 60s. But when it came out, the rating system wasn't the way it was, and this would be in matinees during the day with other like movies about aliens and space creatures and ghosts and monster movies, and this was just kind of thrown into the mix. And parents would drop their kids off at the theater to watch like a double or triple feature of these movies while they did their whatever they did during the day. And the kids were traumatized because this is a horror movie rather than something a little bit more light and kid-friendly, I guess. And a lot of parents were complaining, and it really wasn't the makers, George Romero's fault or John Russo. It was the theaters, just because it was in the public domain. They were just taking the movie and showing it without even screening it themselves. So I'll give this about another minute, and then I'm gonna call it quits for now, and then we'll continue this probably next week.
There are two of them out there. Have you seen any more around here? I can take care of those two. I know you're afraid, but we...
I don't know! What's happening?
That's a real actor, and that's a mannequin, and that's a real actor again. You can see here while he's hitting the ground, he doesn't want to actually hit the actor, so he's very clearly missing his head just to get the shot without hurting anyone. That soundtrack really does work for this part. And here comes the Pee Wee Herman zombie, as I like to call it. It might be a little bit washed out on this because of my camera, but we're at, I will get it right to 21 minutes even, and then I'm going to cut it there. Given that no one knew what these zombies were supposed to be like and how they were supposed to look, I think they did a pretty good job. And the makeup was done by Marilyn Eastman, who plays Helen Cooper, who we'll see later on in the film. But I'm gonna end it right when he drags this zombie away. I just found it interesting. You'll see in a second when Barbara looks down at the zombie that he moves his eyes. With this. It's weird. That was an obvious mannequin. But just for a split second. Plus, because I've seen this film so many times, I might notice it. I just don't want to run out of memory. That line. That's a good shot too, just the way the shadow, the shading is done. And there, his eyes move back and forth. I don't know if that was intentional, but of course the rules for zombies weren't really established yet. I think this movie is over 50, 53, 50, almost 54 years old. Well, anyway, I'm going to cut it there, and I do want to thank people for watching who did bother to watch. This is going to be part 1 of 4. I'm moving the camera around. That's okay. But this is going to be part 1 of 4 or maybe 5 of this movie, depending on the length of the videos, I guess. So we're at 22 minutes of the movie now. And, 19 minutes of the movie, 22 minutes of the video. But I do want to thank everybody. And again, shout out to Angry Video Game Nerd. You're likely never going to see this, but if you do, hey, how's it going? I've been a fan for a long time. I watch a lot of your stuff. Not so much the gaming stuff, because I'm not a gamer, but the movie stuff, absolutely. And I'm going to say bye to everybody else, and we'll continue this next week. And so until the next one, bye.